Today's education is about preventing osteoporosis with our exercise. So understanding a little bit about this particular article in regards to our walking. So how to incorporate some of the research into our walking to help us prevent osteoporosis. We know, it's pretty common knowledge, that falling is a very big deal and can, put us back functionally, and is very difficult for people to recover from falls, especially postmenopausal women. And this article was specific to that. Exercise for the prevention of osteoporosis in postmenopausal women, an evidence-based guide to optimal prescription. So it took a bunch of literature, reviewed it, and kind of summarized how we can incorporate appropriate exercise prescription for that purpose. And I'm just gonna kind of try to go over it, kind of wean down all the sciencey stuff to make it digestible and usable. So we know that it's pretty common for people to know that there are drugs that people use, get prescribed to help with their bone density. But the thing about that is that the pharmaceuticals are focusing on trying to make improvements in the bone itself. And it's not going to have any effect on the other risk factors of falling, like low muscle strength, low power, low functional capacity, smaller muscles. So all of those things can contribute to our fall risk, and the medication isn't going to help us with that. So key thing is exercise training is the only strategy that can improve all modifiable fracture risk factors. So with exercise, we can change our muscle mass, we can change our balance, we can change our bone strength, we can change our fall impact, how we absorb the fall. So all of those things can be improved with exercise training, and that's the only thing that can improve all those things at the same time. So what do we actually have to do to make that happen? There's 4 key points. Number 1, walking in and of itself is not going to affect our bone density or resiliency. So it's common knowledge that walking is good for us. We should be walking, but that in and of itself isn't going to give us the mechanical stresses that we need to create the bone changes. Number 2, resistance training will decrease our risk of fracture by way of increasing muscle mass. So resistance training in and of itself, the evidence isn't very strong that is actually changing the bone itself, but it's helping our muscles be thicker and stronger and more functional, and that decreases our risk of fracture. Number 3, high velocity power training is a key in changing some bone density. So that's going to be things that think of a simple sit to stand squat could be high velocity by just trying to do it faster. So stepping up a step for speed instead of slow. So increasing the speed of a strength movement is going to be more high velocity power training. Number 4, weight bearing impact exercise. This is the biggest category that's going to make the changes in the bone that we're looking for. So these are things that are gonna a little bit jarring to the body, and like hopping, skipping, jumping, squat jumps, jogging, pickleball, these types of things that create more force through the ground up through our bodies. And the reason this is because the bone itself needs the impact and a torsional kind of force to generate that kind of bone response that we're looking for. And it has to be 2 to 3 times the body weight to create that change. One of the things that helps create more force is multi-directional, which I wasn't aware of or didn't remember that fact, that multi-directional movements, when we're trying to do higher impact things, can help create that bone stress that we want. So the challenge with this is that we are usually when we're helping patients with pain or arthritic type of pain, we're teaching them how to decompress joints, right? So compression is an enemy of arthritis, but a friend for bone strength. So it's a very difficult balance to find something that we can load the bones with and without creating irritation in any arthritic joints we have. So that's a challenge. So the article itself went through a whole list of high impact activities and measured the amount of stress that was onto the bone to create the change. The lowest activity or the lowest stressor was lunging. So we think of lunging as a good strengthening exercise. It's great, but it's not creating that impact that we want on the bone as much as some of the other ones. So the ones that are going to create the most impact and the most likelihood of changing the bone stock is something where both feet are leaving the ground and you're landing. So vertical squat jumps, jumping on one foot, stepping off a step or a box and landing. Those are things that are going to create the forces that we want to increase the bone strength. So the challenge is to find something that's gentle enough, that's not going to irritate any of your arthritic issues, but forceful enough to create a little bit of bone changes. So that's what we're incorporating into our walking today, a little bit of hopping, skipping, and jumping.